And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Alright, I'm Tom Vasel.
And I'm Melody.
And I'm a dragon. Okay, today we're talking about the legend of Drizzt. Did I say it right? Drizzt. But anyway, I mock his name, but I'm afraid that some Dungeons & Dragons fans will get upset with me. But this is the third in a series of games. There was Castle Ravenloft came out first, then the Wrath of Ashardalon, and now the Legend of Drizzt. And these are three games that all work together, but also can be standalone games. So we're going to be looking at Drizzt today. I'll tell you a little bit about the game, and then we'll get into it. Now realize as I go over this review that I have mixed everything from the Legend of Drizzt into Wrath of Ashardalon and Castle Ravenloft together. So you're going to see pieces from them. I'm trying to focus on this one. All three games can be played individually, but all three can also be mixed together. But let's pretend you've never played this before. At the beginning of the game, you're going to open it up and you're going to pick one of these characters. There's quite a few characters in the game. Each character has their own background, and I'm sure if you've read the storyline, they have their own special story, and you probably have something. But we look at them, and there's some stats on these cards we want to focus on. The AC, that's their armor. Then the hit points, how many hit points they have, how far they can move, and their surge value, which I'll just explain surge value now. If a character ever dies, in each adventure you have a certain amount of surges. Then you can bring a character back to life with that many hit points. And when you run out of surges, then you've lost the game. And then you see he has a special ability here. He can make an additional attack during his hero phase. Now what's important here is that he's a Drow Ranger. And he gets certain powers. You can use the following power cards. So he gets a couple power cards. And so I look for those specific power cards. For example here, he gets Icing Death and he gets Twinkle. And then he gets 1 Ranger daily power and 2 Ranger or Drow utility powers. So I can look through all the Ranger powers that come with the game. Now since I have the other sets, you can see I have other Ranger powers that I can go through. And then I can also look through a bag of, I can look through some Drow powers here. But I'm looking through the different powers, and so I get 2 utility powers. So I might take Last Blood, that's a utility power, and Dancing Serpent, that's a utility power. And then I get 1 daily power, and so I will take Inspirational Strike. And so those are the cards that I have. Now what that means is, as I take these cards, an at-will power is something I can use all the time. Basically I'm going to use these to attack. For example here, he has Icing Death. I can attack an adjacent monster with that. I will add 6 to my roll on a 20-sided die. I am trying to roll higher than their AC, and it will do 1 damage. This is a special ability. If I roll 18 or higher on the die, it does an extra damage. Or I can roll Twinkle. Little star, how I wonder what you are. This has a +6 too. But this one I can attack an adjacent monster, then I can put a stance token on this card. Now this is something new to this set, but there are stance tokens. These are round tokens that, they're in this bag here. Like for example, there's Stance Drizzt. I can put that on this card, but other cards can have their stance token on too, like this one here. When you have the stance token on different cards, it will give you ability. It's a neat way to show different tactical formations. And when I do that, then I can, when someone hits him, it will reduce the damage by 1. So those are powers I'll be using all the time. They're at-will powers. Daily power is something I can use once per day, and then I'll flip it over. There are some cards that let me flip them back over. And utility powers are sometimes once a day per things, but in this instance, there's stances that he can take. And so utility powers sometimes are once per day things, and sometimes they're something you can use all the time. They're special abilities for your character. And this allows you to customize your character any way that you want. And then you will take the model for that character, and sometimes, like in this game, one of the powers that Drizzt can get is he can bring along his pet panther, which I would say is a pretty cool special ability to have. Now what you're going to do with all the characters is you're going to be placed on a start tile. And what you're going to do in this game is there is 2 books that come with this game. There is the rule book to the game that tells you how to play, and then there's an adventure booklet. And this adventure has, this specific one has 13 adventures in it, but you have to realize, unlike other dungeon crawls, each of these adventures can play out differently each time. Although I will say that the adventures in Drizzt are much more following a storyline than others. You will actually have characters in the game who will join you as heroes will fight you as bad guys. I guess this follows the story of the books. I don't know. But on your turn, you're going to move, and whenever you discover a new tile, that new tile will be oriented following the arrow, and then you will draw an encounter card. And the encounter cards are almost always something terribly bad that happens to you. They're traps and whatever. And then on each tile here, there's a monster, so you will draw from a pile of monster cards. So you'll draw the top monster card, and oh, it's a goblin archer. So then you'll look and you'll find a goblin archer, which here's one, and you'll place him on this spot. And then that goblin archer will fight you every time it's your turn, but everybody else can fight him too. And each of the monsters has their own stats. You can see they have their hit points, they have an armor class, and it tells you how the monster will act. See, for example, if he's next to a hero, he does nothing. If he's within 2 tiles, he'll attack the closest hero with an arrow. Otherwise, he moves 1 tile towards the hero with the fewest points remaining. His attack is +7, and if he hits you, he'll do 2 damage. And if he misses, he still does a damage. If you kill him, you get 1 experience point, and you can also draw from a treasure pile. And treasure cards will help your opponent out, and there's plenty of treasure cards included in the game also. Now this is cool because there are so many heroes and villains in this game. You can see here's a smattering of some of the monsters that come in the game. But, I mean, really, there is just a plethora. If you go back to all the different games, you can see at this point in time, we have so many different monsters that are involved that come from the different game. And this big baddie comes in this game. Oh, but I said to him that he would not pass, so he didn't. But anyway, so you're going to go through, and each mission will have you accomplishing something. Usually, you have to get through a certain amount of tiles. And if you don't move and discover a monster, then you're going to be drawing these encounter cards. Usually, you don't draw an encounter card if you find a monster, unless the arrow is black like I show here. Then you get a monster and an encounter. Lucky you. But usually, you don't draw one if you keep moving. So you want to keep moving, but at the same time, every time you move, there's more monsters coming out. And sometimes the scenario will have some big bad monster. Look at this matron mother, or the shadow dragon, which doesn't really look as bad as all that, but woo, it can be nasty. And then you have just regular heroes sometimes. And look at this pretty guy, girl, I'm not sure, but anyway, it's purple. Spider human. But anyway, that is the essence of the game, and you work together to accomplish your goal, and that is how you play. However, in the Legend of Drizzt, there's actually another way that you can play where you can take a couple heroes and go up against another couple of heroes. Now, this seems to be against all that is good and holy in the world, but at the same time, I think it's a neat way to go up against other players and to play. These characters are a little bit more powerful, and you know, there's lots of different models for heroes now. And with these 3 sets, if they never released anything else, I have enough game here to last me years and years and years and years as a really cool cooperative game. But let's get on to the opinion. Alright, well, obviously I didn't show you everything. There's so many pieces in this game. We got bags all over the table. I have this game has these cavern edge tiles. There's cool pieces in the game. There's a lot going on. But let's talk about our impressions of the game. First of all, we're still beating this game, right? But it's hard. It's really hard. I mean, I've lost this game before, but every time I play, I feel like we're about to lose. And then if we pull off a victory, then hooray. I really like mixing everything together. I really do. I like having an ogre come and a little dragon, and then big dragon. Yeah. Well, no, I don't like having them come. You know, and I have all different characters in the drow in the game. I like the heroes. The customization factor is huge. The only thing I don't like is really storing it all. I'm managing to fit it all in 2 boxes, but I got all these bags of counters and stuff all over the place, and it's not too difficult once we get going, but it can be annoying. But we do keep our special 20-sided dice in here, the big one of doom. That's when you really need a 20. And then my bronze one, that's my typical one that I use. But let's ask you, what do you think of this game?
I really like the different types of characters. They look pretty cool. Also, I have never played a game that I lost, but that was because they're kind of easy.
Yeah, I usually play the easier ones with her.
So sometimes I'd like to try with one of the big guys.
Yeah, so we can die together.
With the bigger team. But it's a lot of fun playing archers, all different types of people. I never played a boy, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's really good. If you've never played this series before, this is a good jumping on point. I have some qualms. I wonder if these new heroes are more powerful than others. Is there some power creep going on here? They do seem to be pretty good. At least they seem to have a little bit more diversity. But at the same time, several of them have special abilities that can be put back with the other heroes because, Ranger works with the different kinds of Rangers. So that's a neat concept that I think was added to the game. I really like the stance markers, and the new models, of course, are great, although a couple of them, like for example the water elemental, that is a hero skate model, which is probably originally in Dungeons & Dragons miniatures model, but still cool. I like the fact they're different colors, so they're easy to tell apart sometimes. And the big models, I mean, come on now. You get just one huge model, there's a lot. You're getting your money's worth in this game. Don't go in expecting a dungeon crawl, though. It is a dungeon crawl, but it's not your typical one. I always say that this is a cooperative game. You're working together, trying to accomplish a goal, rather than going through a dungeon. So, I'm going to give this thumbs up. I like it. It's a good addition to the series. And you?
I love it! Woo!
Alrighty. We'll see you in the dungeons. The Dice Tower dungeons.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.
Yeah?